Alrighty, so hello everybody and welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be talking about something super important in Python, which is data types. Now this might sound a little abstract at first, but I promise by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what they are and how to use them in your own programs. Let's dive into VS Code here and let's get started. So I'm going to go ahead and start by creating a new file. I'm going to use the Control-N shortcut, keyboard shortcut. Now I am on a Mac, so there will be some slight nuances, some slight differences here. So just keep that in mind. But anyways, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to create a file and I'm going to put datatypes.py is what I'm going to name this. Now, why do I end up putting this in here first? It is so that whenever I press Control S, which is the keyboard shortcut to save, it'll automatically give us whatever we have written out here in this first line. So it's going to be called datatypes.py. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to put this in my documents folder. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select my APCSP folder. I'm going to go to Unit 1, and this is where I'm going to end up saving this. So I'm going to click Save. Now, if I press Control A, that'll select everything in my document. I'm going to go ahead and delete that file name because we just wanted to type that in so that we can save that as the file name here. What I want to go ahead and do first is talk about integers and floats. So let's go ahead and let's write out some code here. Perfect. So now in this code, age up here is what we call an integer because that is a whole number. There's no decimal. And so that makes it an integer, or as we represent it in Python, the class int. So these are great for counting things. Now let's go ahead and move on and let's check out GPA. Since it is a decimal, Python is going to treat this as what is called a float, which stands for a floating point number. So these are used for anything that isn't a whole number, like measurements, averages, and money. Basically anything that has a decimal point after it. And then we have other numbers too. So those are our floats. Let's go ahead, let's move on next to strings. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's talk about strings. Strings are basically any text that is in quotation marks. This could also include even numbers as well that could be in these quotation marks. And it could be one word, or it could even be a whole paragraph as well. To also kind of give you all a little bit more, let's say that if I wanted to have this in the first line and then maybe I wanted to have this second part here in a new line, we could end up doing this as well. So I could also print this out. So let's say that I print out greeting in here also. Basically how this would end up printing out in this section is, obviously we're going to print this out first, but then whenever I run this, the greeting, once that's printed out, it'll actually create a new line for the how are you doing today. And so these are our strings. Also in strings, it is important to mention that you can even include emojis as well if you want. Now up next, we're going to be talking about Booleans. So Booleans have only two possible values. It is either true or it's false. Think of these like yes or no questions. They're really helpful when we write conditions later on, like if a user is logged in or if a value is greater than 10. So up next, I want to show you how to check a data type using Python's built-in type function. So what I want you to go ahead and think about here is what data types will we end up getting here. So if we run this, you'll eventually see what types we end up with, but just to kind of go through this again, in terms of name, that was a string, right? In terms of age, that was something that we had written out as right up here, 16, so that was a whole number, so that was an integer, right? We also have GPA, which was a float, and then we also have the is student, which was a Boolean. And so these are the actual classes that it's going to end up printing out. It'll say string, int, float, and then bool. So if we run this code, you'll end up actually seeing in here that it's going to print this out for this section right there. Okay, so up next, I want to talk to you all about mixing data types. Perfect. So in this example here, notice that we are combining a string and an integer. Python will give you an error if you don't convert the integer into a string. So we end up using this built-in string function, which is just str, and then in these parentheses, we put whatever we want to convert to a string. And so in this case, we're saying age is an integer, and so we have to convert it to a string so that we can concatenate it by using these plus signs on here. This is something beginners run into all the time, so remember this trick. Another option too that I want to end up bringing up to your attention is you could also end up going name, and we could change this so that instead of these pluses, we end up using commas. So we could also end up doing this as well, actually. And then remember, anytime you use the comma, it's going to automatically add in a space for you. So if we end up running this, you can end up seeing how these two are concatenate and how they end up working. Perfect. So you now know these different data types. We went through integers, which are basically whole numbers. We went through floats, which basically have a decimal at the end. We also went through strings as well as Booleans. And then we also ended up introducing this little built-in function type that you can use to be able to determine the data type of a certain variable. We also talked about mixing data types as well. And what I want to do is leave you with a little challenge. What I want you to do for this challenge is try creating your own variables for each of these data types and print them out. Make them personal, use your name, your favorite number, anything that you like. Thank you so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you got any questions, comments, or concerns, drop a comment. See you all in the next video, and happy coding. Bye-bye.